The Nintendo Switch is full to the brim with games. Every week there are over 300 games on sale at any one time. Well, that's where we come in. I'm James Romero, and every Sunday we go bargain hunting to help uncover the eShop deals worth picking up. Speaking of which, this video is brought to you by Hypercharge Unboxed. Hypercharge your Switch with this fantastic first-person shooter that takes you back to your childhood as you take control of an action figure in the familiar settings of a home. It's all about protecting your territory against waves of green soldiers, plastic dinosaurs, and many more toys from your childhood. The style is superb, and in between these frantic and fun waves, you need to reinforce your base tower defense styling. If you've not checked this game out, then have a look. There's a link in the description below. The dev team are superb, constantly adding more features, and this one is a real blast with mates locally or online. So, what are the best eShops games on sale in the UK, US, and EU? Let's jump in and take a look. Kicking things off, and my pick this week is Bloodroots. It's an action platformer that lets you interact with just about everything as a weapon. That's a real blast to play. One kill equals death, which leads you to approach each stage carefully, planning your revenge and kicking butt. There is a nice little story here, and it's told through the boss battles, which are a real highlight. Style-wise, the game shines class as well. The cartoony visuals and settings suck you in, as do the sound effects and soundtrack. Beyond the 6-hour campaign, there are lots of unlockables and leaderboards that add longevity. At full price, this is a solid game. With 90% off, it's absolutely not one to miss. Check out our review to find out more. Jordan Juan, what are your picks this week?
Hey everyone, Jordan here with my pick of the week. Now, this week I'm going way out there. This week on the Hong Kong eShop, Super Robot Wars T is on sale. Now, I know what you're thinking, but let me just tell you right this second that the only way to get the digital version of this exceptionally awesome badass game in English is from the Hong Kong eShop. That's the only place for this one. Now, it's almost 50% off at 288 Hong Kong dollars, which is around £28 or $37. Now, I could tell you why this game is awesome, but I'd gone way too long and James would just cut me off. So check out my review of it, Super Robot Wars T. It's one of my favorite strategy RPGs on the Switch. It's just the most badass looking game out there. If you're into anime and animation, you need to see this. In the description, I'll tell James to pop a couple of links below. Firstly, how to set up the Hong Kong eShop on your system. And secondly, a link to where you can purchase some Hong Kong credits. You're gonna need it. Do yourselves a favor and witness the badassery of Super Robot Wars T.
Wow, thank you very much, James. Amazing savings to be had this week. I don't know about anything else, but there has been some wallet-busting weeks. This needs to be called the wallet-saving week. I'm telling you, there's some absolutely great savings, and that choice there with Bloodroots, you chose the one that I was going to choose. That's incredible, 90% off on that one. But what about this one? This is my pick this week, and it's Ni no Kuni, Wrath of the White Witch. Now, we've featured this a number of times on the channel and even in our bargains, but it's never been 84% off, which is an incredible price. That comes down to $7.99 here in the UK and around €9 in Europe. Unfortunately, our friends in the US can't take advantage of that unless you set up an account and buy it from those eShops, which you can do. We've got a guide, which is very handy, in the description if you need it. Now, Ni no Kuni is a charming tale that unfolds through the use of an animated storyboard created by the legendary Studio Ghibli, I hope I've said that right, and music composed by the renowned Joe Hisaishi. Ni no Kuni, Wrath of the White Witch combines beautiful animated visuals, masterful storytelling, and a really sweeping score to create an epic role-playing adventure like no other. And I reviewed this one on the channel. If you want to check out more detail, hit the top right-hand banner on the screen right now. When I featured this last time, it had 40% off. Now it's got 84% off, so bag yourself an incredible bargain if you can. Take care, everyone. See you next time.
Great picks there, guys. And up next, it's another top game for you. Child of Light from Ubisoft is a stunning RPG. This is critically acclaimed for all sorts of reasons, and it's now an unmissable 75% off. This is the cheapest it's ever been on the Nintendo Switch. Yes, it's a Ubisoft game, which means it's on sale regularly, but I doubt it will get more money off than this for quite a while. It's now just £4.80 in the UK and £4.99 in the US. Everything from the watercolour visuals to the quirky Brothers Grimm fairy tale storyline and the well thought out in-battle mechanics are superb. Crawl is a game that I reviewed all the way back in 2017. This is a classic dungeon crawler complete with levelling up, descending dungeon floors and gear. Your mission is to level up to at least level 10 and challenge the dungeon boss. And if you win, you escape. Each floor is randomly generated and there are 3 different bosses that you may face, and each of them is a big fatty that feels like an epic beast worthy of slaying. The spanner in the works is that you are facing other opponents with the exact same mission and only one of you may stand at a time. Whilst you are a human, they play as a ghost which possesses traps, such as barrels, that they can then throw at you in order to kill you and take your spot. The game's visuals are spot on. There's a nice dark yet comical vibe going on that works well. There is a single player option here, but it soon gets repetitive and boring. You'll best enjoy this one with your friends as you compete and cooperate as it suits the circumstances, leading to some funny moments. At a third of the original price, it's a nice multiplayer game. Alien Isolation is a tense game. The movies that inspired it are fantastic at building tension, and this replicates that creeping sense of dread extremely well. As you make your way around the ship, you are never in any doubt that you are being stalked by an ultimate predator. The audio is used really well here, and you'll be screaming, running for a locker to hide in as soon as the xenomorph gets near. With 43% off, this horror game is very tempting. From the maker of Gunman Clive, Mechstermination Force is a boss rush platformer that hits all of the right notes. There's giant building-sized mechs to take down and Contra-style mechanics and controls. Each of the mechs you battle has weaknesses and patterns to target, and these are the game's levels. There are lots of weapons and upgrades, but even with that, the replayability is a bit on the light side as a result. But with 80% off, this is a great pick up and play weekend title that you can enjoy alone or with a friend. Flipping Death's premise is basically that of the wonderful Terry Pratchett Discworld book Morta. After dying, your character Penny is mistaken by Death as her temporary replacement, whilst he swans off on a well-deserved break. It makes for a great story. Gameplay-wise, it's similar to Stick It to the Man with its quirky style and mechanics that have you meddling with the locals by possessing them. Whilst it has a bit of platforming, this is mostly a point-and-click adventure game with a great story and bags of character. Kingdom New Lands is currently on sale at a heavy 80% off, making it an interesting title to pick up. This is a unique resource management title with simple controls that port well onto the Switch, with it being particularly good to play on the move. It plays like a stripped-back 4X strategy game. It's randomly generated, so if you do decide to dip back in for a second time, you will experience a different tale. During the game, you will die a fair amount, so it's questionable whether you'll want to, though, after about 8 hours to complete the first time around. Moonlighter is a quirky title that combines managing a store and randomized dungeon crawling. The result is a fantastic experience. You play as a young man who has inherited a shop in a town that's run down. Its claim to fame are the mysterious dungeons that draw brave explorers from around the world looking to tackle its depths, and shopgoers far and wide who want to purchase the dungeon's wonders. Not content with simply managing a shop, you take the plunge and the game's loop of delving into the dungeon, battling its beasties, and plundering loot, which you then figure out how best to sell and use those earnings to improve yourself before diving back in, is very addictive. A strong RPG sim crossover that is a bargain with 66% off. The Switch has a huge catalogue of great Metroidvania titles, so there are plenty of quite good ones that get overlooked, and this is one of them. It's a big project from a one-man development team. Originally released on Steam, the game had many improvements and additions over a period of time, and what we get on the Switch is the end result in Outbuddies DX. There are some great features, a brilliant soundtrack, big bad bosses, and freedom to discover and find your own way, as well as a unique drone buddy that you switch between controlling in order to progress, and lots of skills and weapons on offer too. There are some drawbacks though, a challenging map, odd button mapping for the controls, and lots of skills crammed in, which make that bit worse. It's a big game that will take 10 to 15 hours to complete, and with over 50% off, you might give this one a go if you fancy mixing it up. Speaking of Metroidvanias, here is another. This game pokes fun of the games industry and is full of tongue-in-cheek humour that will work for some and not so much for many others. But behind all of that, the game is pretty good itself. The combat uses combos akin to Brawl as well, and the progression system is well put together. 50% off here brings the cost into a range I would consider buying it, whereas at full price I'd probably give it a miss. Alright, a quick heads up, the remaining games this week are all on sale either in the US or in the EU and UK, but not both. As the Switch is region free, you can create an account in another region in order to pick up bargains outside of your home region, and there's a handy guide on our website on how to do that, which you will find a link for in the description below. Okay, next up, it's Children of Morta, and what a fabulous indie game this is. Your job is to protect Morta, and you have a whole family to do it with, all of which have varying different playstyles in this awesome roguelike dungeon crawler. The story is told by a narrator who will instantly have you drawn in. The visuals and epic soundtrack are the icing on the cake in this extremely compelling and playable title. TT Games have really pumped out a lot of LEGO games over the years, and the Harry Potter world got 2 titles that have been combined with a bunch of DLC and ported to the Switch. As far as LEGO games go, they typically fall into 2 categories. The first is open world affairs with a larger focus on creating things with LEGO, and the other is based on story-driven puzzle solving and platforming in a more linear experience. So this falls into the latter category. The games are quite old but have held up well, and with a very healthy 75% off, it's a solid package at a strong price point. With a real Blade Runner vibe, State of Mind is a narrative-driven story adventure set in 2048 Berlin. The story is predictable but enjoyable, like watching a cheesy sci-fi flick whilst eating popcorn on your couch. The visuals stand out as stunning, the look of the world is wonderful, and it's a high point. Throughout the game you are a passenger, you will interact with a few puzzles here and there, but ultimately you are along to see the journey. At its original price, it's just way too much to ask for of this 10 or so hour journey, but with a lovely 90% off and at just $3.99, it's really tempting. Felix the Reaper is a puzzle game where you control Felix, a dancing employee in the Ministry of Death looking for love with Betty, who works for the Ministry of Life. It's an odd premise that has both humour and darkness to it. That's pretty interesting. It's a twist on the usual puzzles as you are transported to the mortal realm, time is paused, and you need to mess around with things in order to make sure your target dies. It has some rough edges and won't be for everyone, but it's a puzzle game that is unique, and a nice 90% off makes it interesting. Playing Beat Cop is like playing in an 80s cop show. There's corruption and foul play all over the place. You play as a beat cop that's been framed for murder on a quest to free a good name. This is a non-linear story-driven affair with sarcastic humour and lots of multiple endings to find. You can be a cop on the straight and narrow or a crooked cop, it's up to you as you pound the streets of Brooklyn on your beat. Streets of Red is a homage to the arcade classic beat-em-up games that inspired it, with a few twists thrown in. There are 4 characters to play as, and though like all beat-em-ups there is some button mashing, there are combos and effects that lead you to take a little more thought to your attacks than normal. After each stage there are also randomised drops to pick from that will affect your playthrough, and you get to pick a route through the game's 4 key areas. Tackling certain ones early will be harder, but the rewards will be greater, leading you to some nice choices throughout your run. Its 8-bit visuals are retro and pleasing, but the soundtrack is a little bit flat, which is a shame as these games thrive on arcade-style tunes to keep you pumped. This is fun to play alone in short bursts, but best enjoyed with friends in local co-op. Though, if you do manage to get 3 or 4 together, then be warned you can easily lose your character on screen, which is a little bit annoying. And there you have it, folks, a bunch of eShop games on sale worth looking at. What's your pick this week? Let us know. Thanks for stopping by and hanging out with us. We'll see you again on the next one. Until then, have a great week and take care.